not a game, it's a rich thing.
What's up, y'all? It is Tasha. I am back with another video. Thank you so much for stopping into my channel. If you are new here, welcome. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button. We are so close to 2K subscribers, so go ahead, hit the subscribe button and make sure that you like and share. Also comment in the comment section below. If you are not new, welcome back for your, second, third, fourth, fifth, 100th time, whatever it is. Come on over. We have a good time over here, okay? So we are back with Married at First Sight. This is season 15. We are episode 8, you guys. I actually thought this episode was decent. The only thing I kind of didn't care about is because we were talking to so many different people in this episode, we had to hear the same stories told over and over again because they were being told to different people. And I was just like, if I got to hear about this dog fight one more time, I got to hear about this last name one more time. Like, can we not? Married at First Sight, can we not? But other than that, it was a decent episode tonight. So let's just jump right into it because I got a lot of notes to cover and I don't want to be here all night. Okay, let's go. So we opened the episode at day 12 of marriage. So Miguel opens up the episode, talking about Lindy's ass. And I immediately said, what ass? But I digress. Nate and Stasha work out together for the first time. And then we see that Mitch gave Kristen a reusable bag for her trail mix because, he can't use a whole Ziploc bag and such. And disclaimer, totally forgot to tell y'all, got a new puppy over the weekend. So I really hope he allows me to do this review without, tearing up the camera, chomping on the tripod, You see it's moving right now. And, doing puppy stuff. So we'll see what happens as this review goes on. All right, so we see the episode opens with Miguel is playing ping pong with his friends, catching him up on the marriage. He says they are both super into each other. And, Lindy's a great wife. And he says being a husband suits him well. It's been 12 days, so I guess. He says, although things may bother him, he doesn't let it get to him because, after all, they're married. He says that Lindsay has depth in character and it's not all glitter and pink because, child, I feel like that's what we get most of the time from Lindy is unicorns and rainbows, Miguel gushes on and on about how she checks off everything he wants and she is like an oasis in a desert. And all I can think of is Jose. They are Joseing worse than Jose did on that season, y'all. Like, child, okay. Miguel, in my opinion, is putting 20 on 10 because we don't even really see him interact with Lindy in this way to all the accolades he's given her. Like, I don't see him really treat her in that same manner, if that makes sense. So it's just like, I guess, or you said all that to, get things popping on the honeymoon. I don't know, Miguel, at this point, how to feel. So Kristen meets with one of her friends and says, there's differences in how they live. And I'm like, yeah, Mitch is nasty and he seems to be a little bit of a hoarder. And that would drive me completely insane, y'all. Completely insane. And basically, as soon as I put this in my notes, the friend said, well, is he a hoarder? And she's like, well, maybe he is. Red flag, let's leave I could probably work with a lot of things, but a hoarder, no ma'am, no sir, that's not me, okay? She said she nearly had a heart attack when she saw his stove. So did the rest of us, Kristen. That was disgusting. So the housewarming is coming up. She was like, I want to do like a bit of a French theme. And he started rattling off some things about zombies, alien invasions, and they should dress up how they think the world is going to end. And I was like, that's concerning to be, you want there to be a party theme, Mitch? Red flag number 1892, okay? And then they end up just deciding on a theme of it being some futuristic nonsense that I never could really gather all the way on what the theme was. Her friend asks if he knows about her past engagement. She says no because every time she's told that story, it hasn't ended well for her. But the friend is like, girl, just tell him if he leaves, he leaves. But again, in the end, Kristen, girl, this has been on TV, so he is going to find out either way it goes. So you might as well just go ahead and tell him, okay? Alexis then video chats with her sister to catch her up and tells her about Newton getting attacked, and Maya basically saying if she don't come back reform, she gonna be living with Justin's friend. Her sister asks about the honeymoon, and she says that Justin told her that he loves her, and the sister's like, what? And what did you say? And she's like, and I said, okay. And at this point, I started to question whether or not Alexis was going to be honest with her sister and tell her sister that she said, I love you too, or if she was going to leave that all on Justin at this point. And her sister, then she eventually does tell her sister that she says it back. And her sister basically does not look convinced, and neither is the rest of America girl. We see that the sister, what I catch up on, the sister is just like smiling and kind of putting on from the camera, really kind of being a little bit more reserved. And I had a feeling after these cameras went down, she called Alexis behind the scenes and was like, say what now? What has happened and what is going on? Because I ain't want to completely show out on TV. Okay, that's what I was getting. She tells her that she is not in love with him, but she loves him. Okay, Alexis, she says she doesn't like that he is vague because it could make her have doubts, but she is willing to give it a break because she does tend to mess up a good thing. Okay, so day 13 of marriage. So we see that Ben works out with one of his friends while Morgan video chats with one of her friends that she considers a brother. She tells him it's been hard and the honeymoon wasn't great. Ben tells his friend, that she is beautiful, and while they had a discussion on the honeymoon, he then ended up talking to someone else about it, and she did not like that. While she says she doesn't think, while she's on the phone with her friend saying that she doesn't think he sees her for who she is. Ben says that she told Pastor Cal that she is not getting enough PDA from him, but yet she's been closed off from him because she doesn't trust him. And at this point, I'm like, Morgan, girl, you are talking completely in circles. Like, if you are closed off and not being really open and receptive to him, how is he then not showing enough PDA? Like, I'm sure you probably don't even want him to touch you or kiss you like that because you are annoyed and your wall is back up. So you can't have it both ways, girlfriend. She says that Ben has only seen a slither of herself and that she just isn't happy. And again, because you aren't happy, you probably aren't sharing a whole lot with this man. So what do you really expect, Morgan? What are you expecting this man to do when he has apologized over and over again? I don't know what more you want from him. I'm getting frustrated, so I know Ben has to be frustrated. And it's not up to him to do all of the work, Morgan. You have to actually grow up and figure out how you're going to overcome these things that you just act like, oh, I've been like this, I've done this. Okay, well, it's time to grow up and do things different, okay? All right. So her friend tells her that she needs to put her walls down and talks to him. And she acts like this is going to completely kill her. And I'm like, Morgan, we cannot complain about a situation that you're not willing to fix. And I'm so thankful that she has a friend that is honest and not just a yes man telling her what she wants to hear. But it's up to her to actually follow through. So we will see what she actually does with this information. So Nate meets with his friend and he tells him that, it's unreal. The more he gets to know her, how similar they are, how they just kind of just mesh with each other. He asks if Nate has been opening up because he knows it can take a while for him. And he's like, I don't know that. I don't feel like I'm that way. But he says he thinks he's doing a good job at being vulnerable, but she does want him to go deeper, but he just doesn't know how to do that. So he's like, she's gone to therapy and it seems to have really helped. So now I'm going to sign up for therapy because it looks like it's really helped her. And the friend seems to be completely shocked. And in my mind, I'm like, sure, he's going to go to therapy. Nate is going to do whatever he has to do so that he is locked into that salary in that new house that she's building for herself. Point blank and the period. Okay. But cheers to growth, I guess. He says one of his fears is to be vulnerable. And then after the decision day, she switches up and the friend is like, that is the risk you take. And that is the risk you take in any relationship, not just marriage. Moving on to Kristen and Mitch, they test run some mimosas for their party, and then they start talking about Kristen's dating history and how she was engaged, and then the fiance cheated on her right before the wedding. Then she says that, basically she and her mom ended up typing an email out to all the guests and was letting them know, basically we're going to still go enjoy the wedding, but there will just be no groom. And when she said that, Mitch kind of let out a chuckle and said, well, that's weird. And she was kind of looking at him like, why is that weird? That's not weird. And it got a little bit awkward because it's like Mitch didn't know what to say, but what he said probably was not appropriate for how she was trying to open up to him in this moment. But he tells her that he is sorry that happened to her, but it doesn't change how he feels about her, and says he will never do what her ex did to her. And I was like, that's so sweet of you, Mitch. You won't probably ever have a mistress, but what you will do is leave her house dirty and probably invite bugs to come on in. But at least you won't cheat on her, I guess. And she says that makes her excited about her future with him. Okay. It is day 14 of marriage. Alexis says that Newton started throwing up blood, which she's telling us this in a confessional in the car. And then we see footage from either the morning of, the night before, whenever it was, of her talking to Justin and saying that the dog hasn't eaten in 2 days, but Justin was still giving him the medicine. And it says on the bottle, basically it needs to be taken with food. Justin says he didn't think he needed to overshare because they end up going completely back and forth with basically closed caption on the screen because we could not see them. And when he said that he didn't think he needed to overshare, I immediately get frustrated because this is the exact thing she just told him last week, is that she needs him to over communicate what is happening. So it's like, are you really listening, Justin? Because you claim that, oh, you're going to get sick of hearing from me, but then you don't follow through. So she says that she feels like he sells her false dreams every day. And Alexis is like, I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to go. And Justin is like, basically, that's what you always do. You always are ready to leave. I don't know how to feel about this, y'all, because while Justin, you can just look at the bottle and see that if the bottle says to take with medicine and the dog hasn't eaten, don't continue to give the medicine. But also, Alexis, it's your dog. And after what happened, you think you would be super overprotective of little Newton and paying attention to every little thing. So I don't see why it's technically Justin's job or responsibility to be like, I'm going to take care of the dog and give him the food and the medicine. And then yet here we are with you getting mad all over again because your dog is, being sick or hurt again. Like, when are we going to learn our lesson that maybe you should just watch out for your own fur baby for the time being? Justin can get there, but for right now, keep an eye on Newton for yourself, okay? Mr. and Chris then get things ready for the housewarming, and he tells her they are not going to go to a party store because, everything there is trash, and instead they're going to go to a reusable store. Again, this would drive me insane, completely insane. We then see all the other couples go shopping for their parties as well. And then we see Miguel and Lindy are at some type of costume shop. And at this point, we don't know what type of party they are having. So I wasn't sure what to think. We then see Alexis go to a candy shop because their party is going to be 90s theme. And although she isn't even sure if the party is still happening, she's here picking up now laters, blow pops, ring pops, all the good 90s candy, okay? Justin then show up and they sit and talk. He says that he is fine and he isn't upset with her. And while he still wants to fight for them, and keeps saying, that they are, in this together. And y'all, a frog is in my house. I just saw it. I'll be right back. I am back, y'all. When I tell y'all I don't do bugs or reptiles of any kind, I just let the dog out, so I'm assuming that's how it got in my house. Let me get this review over between the frog, the dog. Let's just keep pushing through, y'all. So anyway, again, Alexis and Justin at the candy shop. So he says he thought he was being helpful and he thought he could handle it. But again, Alexis, if you knew your dog didn't eat for 2 days, why is it all on Justin? Just like you blame Justin exclusively almost that, you know, his dog attacked your dog. Like, you have to take some responsibility of these things that are going on. And if Newton is your baby, like you say he is, then you should treat him as such and you should be the one taking care of him. I don't know, y'all. So again, she tells him to please over communicate and he says, okay. And he's like, well then, you know, I just won't say anything. And I'm just like, Justin, that solves nothing. Of she's telling you to over communicate and then you're getting frustrated to the point of like, well, I'm just not going to say nothing. And then he tells her that she really thinks that she likes them to be in this toxic space, and that really kind of sets her off and she gets really upset. And at this point, I'm like, we are seeing a completely different Justin than we've seen these entire other, 7 episodes at this point. It's like all before you were all this emotional, sentimental, you know, tears and all this stuff. And now you being maybe just a tad bit of a gaslighter of, you know, acting like you are just trying to be so helpful in doing all these things, but then it's like you're not really doing these things at the same time. But then you get mad at Alexis because you're trying, but you're not really trying. I don't know, y'all. Anyway, she asked production to unmic her and she leaves the candy shop. And I said, well, this went downhill real fast now, didn't it? Day 15 of marriage, Kristen and Mitch are all dressed up for their party. And child, I still don't understand the theme of it all, but here we are. All right, so we see that Stasha and Nate's friends, they start to show up for the party. They share pics from their honeymoon and all their friends are like, y'all are so cute. Y'all look good together. Y'all look comfortable together. And all I could think was y'all look like y'all might be related. You know, in some of the other reviews that I watched, they've kind of been saying this since the first episode. I really haven't seen it as much. But this episode, they gave a lot of side profile pictures with them and video shots. And I was just like, these facial features looking real strong. Y'all might just want to take a little ancestry, DNA, whatever it is, one of them little kids, and just make sure before y'all start having babies if y'all gonna stay together, okay? So they didn't dance, they have a good time. The party is cute enough for me. Nate talks with her sister and friend and says that things are just natural between the two of them and that they've had some tough conversations, of course, about surrounding children and how she wants to have kids in the next year or two. He said he's concerned about having children so soon because he has not seen her around kids and she's a bit of a workaholic. She talks to his friends and says that she wants to, you know, maybe have kids very soon and because of her age. And then his friends are like, well, because he kind of grew up without having a mom, he really wants to be able, he can provide that for his own children. And basically they think he has a bit of an abandonment complex because of that. Nate tells, you know, her sister and friend that he is giving 100%, but maybe his 100% is a C+ student while hers is an A student. She tells his friends that it's like he has a wall up and she isn't sure what to do. They share he hasn't had a lot of long-term relationships and he keeps things guarded, but he is open-minded, but she really has to be patient with him. Stash is basically like, I got a few years left on these eggs, so either we gonna do it or not, but we got to hurry things along, okay? So it's now time for Lindy and Miguel's party, and we have people dressed in food and then 70s gear, so I was just kind of confused on what's happening. And then they finally tell us that the theme of the party is dressing like a game show contestant. They play the newlywed game. It's all good and well. And of course, this gives us the pleasure of hearing Lindy's annoyingly high-pitched voice that she gets when she's really putting on, okay? They then talk to each other's friends and Miguel says things are great. She's a sweetheart. You know, she's so witty. She's so funny. He wakes up every morning and, you know, tells himself this is a good thing, so don't F it up. Josean. His friend asks if she really finds him funny because she laughs at everything. And she's like, yeah, I really do. I really do. Girl, stop lying, okay? Get down. He says they have shared their deep darkies, which are their deepest secrets. And I'm like, can y'all please stop nicknaming things? We are grown adults. We do not have to call them deep darkies. Lindy tells us that they argued that day about her taking his last name, and says that there are check marks for her because, you know, if she takes his name. She says that she asked for health care coverage, and basically it's being dangled in front of her face that if you want the health care coverage, you got to take Santiago, the last name. Figure it out, honey. If you want to go to the doctor and stuff, this is what you got to do. I'm trying to figure out why Lindy doesn't have health insurance as an adult already. Were you just waiting to get married so that you can get on somebody else's insurance? I don't know. His friend says that, you know, she doesn't doubt that Miguel cares for him, but, you know, it's just the uncertainty of it all. She says she doesn't understand why it's such a big deal. And I'm like, well, you know, we don't know what's happening after decision day. So I don't think you need to really be going on his insurance, nor do I really think you need to be taking his last name at this point. But why don't you have insurance? You have a doctorate degree. Why do you not think insurance is a priority, Lindy? I cannot. So now it's time for Morgan and Ben's party, and they get the party started with shots. They have to talk about the honeymoon yet again with their friends, and while Ben is trying to be like, you know, we had a little disagreement. Things weren't great. They were okay. Morgan's over there like, spit it out. Just be honest. And I'm just like, why are you being messy, Morgan? Like, y'all don't need to discuss everything that's going on with y'all marriage in mixed company. It's already going to be aired on national television. And I'm just not understanding how, if you're so upset with him for going back to Justin discussing what's happening, why is it then, I guess now the floodgates are open where you can tell any and everybody at this point and it doesn't matter, but yet it was such a big deal for him to share with one person? I'm confused just a bit, y'all, okay? So anyway, they tell their friends separately what the argument was about. Morgan continues to be super defensive as she shares this story over and over again with, you know, her friend before and then now his friends. It's like she wants to keep telling the story until she gets somebody on her side that's just as angry as she is. And that has yet to happen. So she's just going to continue to tell it and hype it up and just be extra about it, I guess. Ben says he's putting in the effort, but her friend says it takes her a long time to forgive. And I'm like, well, if she wants to be in a healthy, happy relationship, she has to learn to get over things. Like, I'm not saying just completely brush over things and be a pushover, but you're going to have to let things go, honey, because things are going to continue to happen. And if every time things happen, it takes you 7 to 10 business days to get over it, child, you're going to be in a world of trouble, okay? She then keeps saying that he hurt her so deeply. And I'm just like, Morgan, 20 on 10. Was it really that deep if now you can just share with everyone? It honestly doesn't seem like that big of a deal at this point, but maybe I'm oversimplifying at this point. I just don't know. So over to Alexis and Justin. Their party is getting started. Newton's cone is gone, so I guess he's feeling better. And was it just me, or was Alexis' male friend like real excited to see her? Like the way he smiled and lit up and they hugged each other, I was like, is there something here? Is there something here? Sorry, I thought he was about to snatch my camera down, y'all. So, where was I? Here you go. Alexis lets them know that they had a fight and almost didn't have the party. Their friends tell them to basically just keep communicating. Y'all still getting to know each other. Alexis tells them that she gets frustrated with him being vague and she sees it as it being a little bit manipulating, and she is concerned. And I can definitely see this because it's like lying by omission. a little bit of, you're not exactly lying per se, but you just leaving out things that you probably should have shared. And in you leaving those things out, you're painting a little bit of a different picture. And it's difficult for the person that you're talking to fully gauge the situation and make appropriate decisions going forward. So I really could understand where she was coming from. He says that she really doesn't give him time to process his thought because she just comes basically with question after question. When she asks him, for an example, he's not really able to provide one. So Alexis talks with Justin's friends and tells them about the dog attack. And his guy friend says, men don't really think about those things beforehand. We just really live in the moment. And I'm just like, no, sir. If somebody asks you if your dog is going to be cool, you should probably really remember the other fights your dog have been in and probably mention that. I'm not buying it, okay? Justin asks how to best respond to her to not come off dismissive, and her friends tell him to just be honest and basically talk to her and ask her. His friend asks Alexis if she loves him, and she says she does love him, but she's not in love with him just yet, but her heart is in it, which is why she hangs on to everything. Justin says he's afraid with every argument they have because he really wants it to work and he's afraid of losing her. You can't be so afraid of losing someone that you basically just continue to shoot yourself in the foot of not making good choices with your communication because you just are so afraid of losing someone. That's not going to work in the long term. So Lindy and Miguel are now talking in bed now that the party is over. And child, this is when it got a little spicy for me, okay? So she brings up the insurance and whole last name ordeal. He asks what she needs from him to show that he is in this enough to take his last name. And she's like, well, I need a joint account. I need a plan on where we're moving in the next 8 weeks. I need this, I need that. I need all these tangible things if you want me to change my identity. This is changing my identity. So Miguel says, we can talk about all that, but, he feels like I've talked about these things, and she says that he is asking so much of her, but yet she does not feel secure that she can give him all that. Miguel says he is asking her to live like a married couple, but married couple don't do things like that until they have the same last name. I said, well, point over here for Miguel. Can't lie. You got a bit of a point. Lindy then jumps to, if he doesn't want to, be around her until she changes her name, then, I get that. Or it's like, girl, you went from 0 to 100 because that's not what he said. And I'm like, here go Lindy again, going like her anxiety completely taking over and her losing her complete mind like she did when she couldn't find those pajamas on the night that they got married. Like, girl, ooh, child, she do a whole lot, okay? She says that she needs her last name. She needs her identity. And the fact that he doesn't want to take care of her, that is painful. And it's basically saying that he can't extend a hand for her to see a physician, but he expects her to take his last name. Lindy girl, if you would have had your own insurance, none of this would be an issue, honey. While I understand changing your last name like legally changes your name in the world, it doesn't completely change who you are. You're still the person that you are. You just have a new last name. And you can even hyphenate the last name if you feel like it's that, big of a deal so that you still have your maiden name. But Lindy girl, insurance last name, you're acting like last name is up here in the heavens and insurance is in the pits of hell. That is just not that big of a deal. And I'm like, but what if things don't work out? Then Miguel had you on his insurance and you really can't be changing insurance unless you have life events that happen. So he would really have to wait for y'all to get legally divorced to then be able to change his insurance back to an individual from a couple. And all that time he would be paying for your insurance. When also on the other side of things, if y'all don't work out, you can go back to your maiden name. So, both of these things are completely fixable in the end if y'all don't work out. But I think we can just table the conversation until after the 8 weeks. Like, why are we making a big deal out of it right now while we are, 2 weeks in? Okay. Day 16 of marriage. So now we're back to Kristen's and Mitch party. And I had completely forgot that we hadn't even seen their party yet, y'all. They look completely ridiculous. And I think it's supposed to be like some type of futuristic deal. But he is dressed like Star Trek, which is technically in the past, but a show about the future, but about the future that we probably are currently living in, which looks nothing like the future that they portrayed it to be on a TV show in the 80s, maybe even 70s, 80s, 90s. I don't remember, y'all didn't watch Star Trek, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. She tells us that she bought some little plastic containers for them to take Jello shots, and basically Mitch about shit a brick because, you know, it's plastic, and she made him go buy metal ones, which were, I think she said, double or triple the cost. And I'm like, Mitch don't care. You make double what he makes, so he just, you know, let you use your money, and it's fine, okay? So their friends and family show up. They take shots, and they dance, I guess is what you call it. But this party just looks real weird, and everybody looks like they could possibly be on ecstasy or some type of drug that's altering their mental state. Maybe it was just me. So Kristen steps away with her friends, and at this point I'm like, well, why didn't they kind of do the switcheroo like they've done with everybody else? She tells them that, you know, he's easy to live with, but, you know, his extreme environmentalism is hard. And I said, well, isn't hard the opposite of easy? And you just said he was easy, but now it's hard. So is it hard or is it easy? I don't know. Mitch says that, you know, she's gotten annoyed, you know, with him many times because, you know, he could be a little bit over the top. She says, you know, it's the balance of being grateful and then walking on eggshells to not piss him off. And the friend is like, well, you sound like you're doing a lot of adjusting, but he needs to adjust as well so that you can feel free to be yourself. And I'm like, yes, friend, exactly. And why do you feel like you need to walk on eggshells? Mitch must be put it down on her, okay? Because I'm not seeing where Mitch is such a catch for her to be doing all this. I don't watch the after party, but from what I hear, she's like, you know, when they got it in, it could be a little bit longer. So either it's gotten better since then, or, you know, you just want to be with somebody at this point, Kristen. I don't know. He says that he hasn't been sleeping well because the dog snores, and he basically thinks the dog is a useless creature, and she thinks the snore is just the sweetest noise ever. And I'm like, girl, it is not sweet to be listening to some dog snore. Her friend says that, you know, it's a red flag that he hasn't been in a relationship in 8 years. And Kristen's like, he has a lot of great qualities. And her friend is kind of like, are you just looking for this to work to, like, you know, be in a marriage, or do you kind of really like him? And Kristen is like, you know, I feel like we need to make it work because we're married. You're looking a little desperate, girl, just a little bit. So all the ladies meet up and they have some wine. All the guys meet up as well. Kristen and Mitch both say things are going well. And I said, well, I guess. She says she thinks it's a lifetime marriage. I guess maybe the marriage is on lifetime. I don't know about a lifetime marriage, but okay. But yet, you know, each of them individually confuse me because I feel like when they're talking with other people or in confessionals, they talk about the things that annoy them about the other one. But then when they talk to other people, it's like everything is great. Ben says Morgan's cat is mean and he thinks he's allergic. Miguel said, I'm dealing with the same thing, bro. Alexis shares about the dog fight and I'm tired of hearing about it. Stasha then says, you know, sometimes she thinks, you know, she doesn't think that basically Justin needs to share everything. But she just, Alexis just needs to give him some time and she can relate to him in a bit in that way. And I had to check my memory bank and I'm like, isn't Stasha the same one who wants Nate to open up with his deepest, darkest secrets that he has? But yet you think Justin doesn't really have to share everything and she wants him to just give, and you want Alexis to just give him time? Lindy talks about the last name and insurance debacle. Kristen is team Miguel. Miguel talks about their different communication styles because basically Lindy just seems to spit everything out before she truly thinks about it, and he kind of thinks things through before he talks. And again, Stasha lets us know that she agrees with Lindy and it will take time for her to want to take his last name. Stasha, you told us, I think on episode, 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, that you were taking this man's last name and you did not care if this thing worked or not. You was going to keep the last name. Maybe you should just be quiet at this point, Stasha, because basically you give people advice and you do the opposite. Okay, let's just keep our thoughts and opinions to ourselves, okay? So Miguel asks who else has consummated their marriage, and Justin says he's tried, but it's been a challenge because of their issues. Nate says he isn't sure what's happening between Alexis and Justin because, Alexis shared during the honeymoon that she was open to that, and now things have changed. And I'm like, because her damn dog had to have emergency surgery. What you think, okay? Kristen tells them that she and Mitch have been getting it in. She's like, I cannot keep him off of him. And I'm like, I don't see how, because when I started that dirty apartment, he would not be able to touch me. Do you hear me? Nate then tells them that they haven't consummated their marriage either, but he says he has had dessert after dinner and he is a giver. So Justin is like, is that, apple pie, sweet potato pie, pecan pie, pumpkin pie? I'm like, you know what that means. That means he went downtown. That's the way to his love. You know what he did, okay? Morgan says her walls have been up since the honeymoon and she doesn't know how to bring the walls down. Yes, you do, girl. I just don't think you want to get over it at this point. You just want to just keep harping on it so that you can look like the victim, girl. Go to therapy. Lindy says she hopes that she can give him grace, and I'm like, Lindy, girl, practice what you preach, okay? And I'm just thinking at this point, maybe they should be talking to people that are in more seasoned marriages, because ain't none of y'all been in nothing long enough to be able to give advice to other people, okay? But at this point, I noticed that when Lindy is with the ladies, she doesn't bother me and annoy me as much as she does when she is with Miguel. When she's with Miguel, she's super annoying. So then Miguel and Lindy talk after. He asks, what she shared with the ladies about them. And of course, it's insurance gate. And he tells her that, she came down on him really hard. She says she isn't proud of how she reacted and she was defensive because she did not feel secure. But they need to see this side of each other because, if they are going to be in this forever, they need to see the sides of each other that, pretty much suck and aren't so pretty. I guess. I'm just curious as to if you are like this, again, what are we doing about it? I feel like we hear about this over and over again of, this is how I am. This is how I've always been. This is what I've always done. But if y'all know these things about yourself, what are you doing to not be this way? That is my question. I feel definitely every season, but every other episode is, what are we going to do to be better? Because we're recognizing the problem, but it's like none of y'all really want to find an active solution. You just want to be upset about it. Okay. But anyway, it wraps up with him saying he will put her on his insurance, and she says that's all she wanted to hear. And now she is all smiles. And basically just that quick, Lindy is back to being annoying AF because she just reminds me of a toddler who finally got the fruit snack or his favorite toy from his mom after she told him he wasn't going to have it. I digress. But that is how the episode ended, y'all. I am so sorry for this review. Maybe it was entertaining as I fought with the puppy and had, the whole frog situation. I don't know. But hopefully next week's review is not as adventurous. Okay? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.